Jason LaConfora is our Odyssey NFL insider. He was on with the morning show today. We're going to jump to some football. And we got Monty Poole coming up at 1. We'll jump back into the Warriors. But it's the legal tampering period for the NFL as free agency gets ready to start. Jason LaConfora, what's going on with the Niners? Take a listen to this, and we'll talk about it.
There are definitely teams out there that believe, when all is said and done, that there might be a price that you could pry Deebo out of there. And people get traded in this league all the time. I mean, Wayne Gretzky's been traded. Professional sports is professional sports. So when teams see another team that might be in a bit of a quandary with a player at that position, it's only natural that calls start coming in. What they ultimately do, are they absolutely dead set on having Aiyuk and Deebo there long term? You know, it certainly seems like that's their mindset for now, but it's a long offseason, and I don't think that until that thing's resolved and until there's some certainty there, I think they're going to continue to have periodically teams calling to offer this or offer that, or to at least explore, hey, what would it take?
All right, so here's what Jason LaConfora is talking about. He's talking about Brandon Aiyuk, who's under contract for one more year, but they can extend him this year. Apparently there's interest from the Jacksonville Jaguars, and Aiyuk is open to that camp in Jacksonville. Deebo Samuel, apparently the Baltimore Ravens are interested in Deebo Samuel. There's apparently possibility, some dialogue there. And then the latest, Eric Armstead, who won't be a 49er this year, has also been linked to Jacksonville. But the one thing, can we all agree? Well, I don't know if we want to agree or not on this, but it seems like the 49ers have resigned themselves to the fact that at least long term, they're probably not going to be able to have Aiyuk and Deebo on the team beyond one more year. That's kind of what it feels like might be setting up.
And I don't think anybody would tell you you're wrong. And I also add to that, Steiny, we could see this coming, right? So I don't want to say this is a bad thing, but because in a perfect world, you want to keep both of them because they're so dynamic and they're both different. But I just don't know what Jacksonville could give you to where Kyle Shanahan would say our offense is better than what Brandon Aiyuk provides. I'm looking at his stats in the playoff. They were very pedestrian, Steiny. Super Bowl, 3 catches for 49 yards. Against Detroit, 3 catches for 68, had a big one for 51. But my point is, I thought this year was going to be Kyle going to the lab, bolstering that offensive line to give Purdy more time for Purdy to find Aiyuk downfield. Because, Steiny, I know you say he's not your typical Randy Moss type of guy, but he's special. I think he could get deep if they gave him more opportunities. But I would be stunned. I mean, I'm talking about fall out the chair if they were to move him now.
Which one?
Brandon Aiyuk. Yeah, no doubt. Because I think he overall is the better player than Deebo Samuel, and Deebo is one of a kind. But with the injury history and all that stuff, Steiny, there's no scenario to where I think the Niners would make this transaction this early. And then again, it depends on what you're getting back. But
what if they can, I mean, offense is one side of so the 49ers average 30 points a game. What if they think they can average 28 points a game?
With Juwan Jennings and Ronnie Bell or guys like that?
I mean, you can get better by what if they get a defensive player who makes them better? Then
I still would be. I hear you. I would be shocked.
I wouldn't be shocked if one of them's not around
right now, this offseason, this quick. Because I kind of like how you set it up like, they got one more. But now it might not be that, listening to Jason.
Well,
if there's some smoke if there's fire where the smoke is.
I mean, I just think that, and if we're looking at, we're going to have to pay Brock Purdy in a year. And we just kind of know we can't pay Purdy, Deebo, and Aiyuk.
Wow.
At some point, you're going to have to make a decision on one of those 3 guys. And I think at this point, you got to assume Purdy's more entrenched in the quarterback position than Deebo is at his position or Aiyuk is at his position. So if you think you can move off one of those guys right now and stay competitive and stay at the top of the NFC, I could see why they would try to do that, knowing They got to do it now, or they got to do it in a year anyway.
All right, I hear that, and I'll tell you this. And this is, I love Deebo Samuel, but I've said this to you and the listeners. What Kyle Shanahan has done, the way he's used Deebo Samuel, I don't know if every other offensive coordinator does it that way. So kudos to Kyle. But could you imagine a scenario, Steiny, to where Kyle's looking at the wide receiver position and saying, you know what, Steiny, I don't need Deebo Samuel. I could take Ronnie Bell. I could take Juwan Jennings and put that Jimmy Garoppolo guy out there at the wide receiver position and still put up numbers or the necessary numbers for our offense to keep going. Because what I'm going to say right now, Steiny, is they are dependent on McCaffrey, and you're not going to run him in the ground to where you're a one-trick pony. You got to have weapons on the outside. Right now, they got two of the most unique weapons in the game.
Yeah, here's what
like, how did we get here?
What do you mean?
Like the possibility of one,
you got to pay him. That's how we got here. You got to pay him at some point.
But Aiyuk is not till next year.
Okay, then bring him back.
You just went to the Super Bowl and almost won it.
Then just bring him back. You want to risk that? Hey, just come back and play. We're not going to extend you. Play on your contract, and we'll deal with you next year. They obviously don't want to do that.
Do they look bad if they were to do that? Or do you risk upsetting Brandon and you don't want that? As an organization, what would the Niners' fear be if they just say, Brandon, we need you to play this out? He could go to his brother. Contract. Yeah, his brother could go on Twitter.
There'd be nothing. Like if the 49ers said, Brandon, we don't have the money to give to you right now. We want you to come and play on your fourth year, and we'll revisit it at the end of this year. That's perfectly within their rights.
No, I get that, but I think from afar, wouldn't fans be like, oh, you're being cold? Because what if he got hurt? You know, that stuff does come into play.
I mean,
because the other week you told me, I expect him to this offseason to give Aiyuk his money, and I was like, Steiny, why do you feel? I do, and I guess I'm asking you if
and then they'll lose one of them next year. Right. That's what I think.
But why would they give Aiyuk his money early? And I guess I'm going down the road.
They want him more than Deebo because he's more of a traditional player.
So they're not worried about Aiyuk coming into this season without a deal playing on his last year.
No, I think they are.
Okay, yeah,
I think they are. They'd prefer not to do it.
Okay,
but they can do whatever they want to do. They can extend him, and that would be fine. And if they don't extend him, like what fans are going to be mad?
No, I was. Or looking at the Niners like you being
fans were mad when the Warriors traded Monte Ellis.
I was one of them.
And they won a title.
No, they built a dynasty.
I mean, one thing, and I want to be careful because
Aiyuk's earned that money, though, that extension. If it were me and you want him around, I don't see why you wouldn't want Brandon Aiyuk.
You think he's a top 5 receiver?
Steiny, I think I do. Catch radius. He's a ballerina out there. He's shown us he can make the acrobatic catches. I don't think they use him enough. So I'm eager to see this year if that changes. I really believe. And in the Super Bowl,
there's nothing to see in the postseason with Aiyuk.
Well, he made one of the greatest catches.
But he had 9 catches in the entire postseason.
Yeah,
so, I
think that's a byproduct of the offense, not him having cup hands to where, you can't count on you. That's just me. And what about dropping the Kansas City defender for a touchdown? Had he got time, Purdy would have hit him. I mean, that was a cold-ass move. And then dropped him. But PFF said Deebo and Aiyuk didn't get a lot of separation that game against Kansas City. But I know he had enough concentration. This one play, Steiny, against Detroit, that was a big play. I like Brandon Aiyuk. I think he's earned the money. But to answer your, what if he's top 7 or 8? That's still good enough to me.
Well,
I think he's better than Deebo, Steiny, and I think you could count on him more than Deebo.
All right, but if you don't have Deebo, then you lose a important weapon. Like I'm not saying this is why they would do it, but the one benefit, let's just say hypothetically, they move Deebo Samuel. I don't know what they get, but they move Deebo Samuel.
Some don't D.
Like in a way, if you know that Brock Purdy isn't going to be able to be the long-term quarterback with McCaffrey, with Aiyuk, and with Deebo Samuel, because they make too much money, and then you throw Purdy's $40 million on. Like, in a way, I would think about losing Deebo right now.'Why? Because at least at that point, you get a better look at Purdy and what he'll be quarterbacking down the road. Like, to me,
that doesn't sound as crazy at all.
If we all agree they're not going to be able to pay as many weapons as they've paid, well, then I think you got to make a decision. Let's ride it one more year with Deebo. We'll bring Aiyuk back. We got McCaffrey. Kittle's got one more year, and we're going to pay Purdy at the end of the year. Okay, the season finishes. Now we got to pay Purdy, but we got to lose one of our big boys. Yeah. Well, you have no idea
what Purdy
would look like without all those weapons. But if you move off of Deebo this year, in a way, I'm not saying this is why you would do it, but maybe one of the benefits is you get a better look at the kind of team Brock Purdy will be quarterbacking in 3 or 4 years, which is one that won't have as many high-priced superstars.
Well, there's a flip side to what you're saying, and I could dig it, but I guess, Steiny, if I'm a hand Brock Purdy or any other quarterback, $40 million, should it really be dependent on, okay, one of your weapons is gone? Should not be in love? Should not know that answer? Okay, you got one less weapon. We're ready to give you 40. We've seen enough. As opposed to Brock losing one weapon and then looking totally different. You know what I like? That don't sound like $40 million to me. Like, you should know. You would think you would know. Like, there's going to be an impact if he lost Deebo, but I guess they should already know this is our guy, even if they with or without Deebo.
Well, then if they know he's their guy.
Well, we saw them. They went 0-3 when Deebo got hurt. I need to slow down.
I mean, if you think he's your guy right now, then I think if you think Brock Purdy's your guy right now, then I would absolutely, positively try to keep Aiyuk and Deebo together for one more year. If you absolutely think Purdy's your guy, whether you lose Deebo Samuel or or lose Aiyuk, you still believe he's your guy. Well, then I would try to keep them together for one more year. But if you're looking down the road and say, eventually Purdy's going to have to quarterback a little bit different of a team, and can we get something for Deebo right now where we think it makes us better on defense or at another position? We're going to lose that special piece of Deebo Samuel, but maybe we can make it up in other areas. Well, at that point, you're at least taking a look at Purdy quarterbacking a more traditional team in terms of not an overabundance of weapons that they apparently had last year that we all talked about. Like that, and maybe
it's interesting, man.
They're gonna. I don't think they can move forward long term with Purdy, McCaffrey, Deebo, and Aiyuk all making big money.
But that's why I would run it back. This is it.
That's what
Michael Jackson.
That's what I think they're likely to do.
Because they were as close as all outdoors of winning that Super Bowl this year.
888-957-9570 is the number. Jason La Canfora, Odyssey NFL insider, talking about the 49ers, and there's some players that other teams have interest in.
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
It's a guess. If Evan wants to play the music, we can. If I ask Matt Steinmetz, which I'm about to at 1:16 on a Thursday on a payday eve, how many touchdowns did one Brandon Aiyuk have last year in the regular season?
7.
God darn it. You got to have it up. You got it right. Evan, you believe he lived?
What'd you think he had, 19?
No,
7.
That's on the low side for me because he's a badass, but I don't blame him for that. I just think we're going to see let Brandon cook more next year.
God, I hate that phrase.
That's why I said it. But Steiny, tell me you had his numbers up.
No numbers
Did you just guess 7?
I could figure he caught a touchdown in every other game. Half of 17 is 8.5.
I don't know, Evan, but anyway, I dropped you got it right. Congrats.
I mean,
how many yards do you think he had?
Like McCaffrey scored. McCaffrey scored all their touchdowns.
How many yards do you think he had?
I know it's 1,300.
Hey, stop! You got it up, man.
Which isn't that many anymore.
The dude's got it up.
It's a nice year.
How many catches do you think he had?
17 games. Half of 17 is 585.
The jig is up.
He probably had 90.
Wow, 75.
Not even 90.
I believe you have it up.
I don't. Pay a guy $25 million a year for 4 catches a game.
He had 13.
So 1,300 yards is a lot then.
It's
for 75 catches.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. I mean, like I think Ayuk's good.
That's 17 yards a pop, a catch.
I think Ayuk's really good. I don't think he's a superstar. I think he's really good.
Well, he's still Jonathan Kuminga in a sense. No, as far as you, I love him, Steiny. I really do.
I know you do.
And I know he'd probably say, I don't know if you appreciate this or where you come down, you and Evan, on athletes' family members talk, going to Twitter and talk. Like if Mary Page tweeted 95-7 the game doesn't treat their employees well, I gotta believe you're telling your daughter, you know what, at work they ain't cool. You know what?
It's not his daughter. It's his sister or mom. That's a big difference. Huge difference.
You think?
Yes.
All right, what about brother? That's the same. What? Your brother Mike tweets out.
What you don't, like, these guys are pros. What Ayuk's brother tweets out is not going to cost him $25 million.
I'm not saying cost, but I'm wondering.
It doesn't matter.
Is that how Brandon's feeling?
Deebo Samuel scrubbed the 49ers social media before he got a big contract. That doesn't.
I just asked you from the standpoint of, when if my wife were to post something about the station, do you think I feel that way?
Yes.
Yeah.
Of course.
I'm kind of there too.
I bet you Brandon Aiyuk thinks he should be targeted more.
Oh my gosh, no doubt. Oh. No doubt about it.
Why isn't he targeted more?
Did you see his face in Super Bowl 3?
Why isn't he targeted more?
I don't have
too many
that
weapons. Well, they have too many guys they got to spread the ball around to. I mean, maybe you get rid of Deebo. He'll get.
Oh my gosh!
Then he'll get more Goo.
I know he loves
122 catches.
Well, but that definitely would. I think that would impact it, Steiny. Deebo. That's probably 6 or 7 more balls a game.
And it's really all about. I think next season for the Niners, I think they just shelve their Super Bowl aspirations.
They're going to have
and just make it all about getting Aiyuk his numbers.
Nobody's saying that.